Brilliant ideas, powered by Hyundai Motor.
Sewing, weaving, wrapping. The work and labour of women are the very heart of Kimsooja's art.
그 바늘이 된 김수자의 몸이 또 다른 지역의 문화를 엮고 세계를 엮으면서 다양한 삶이 결국은 이불보처럼 한 그 공간 안에서 공존할 수 있도록 만들어주는 그런 중요한 역할을 하는 게 바로 김수자의 바늘이라고 생각합니다.
From sculptures to installations to video performances, Kimsooja explores the larger notions of what it means to be human. She's a global artist driven by a profound belief in art and coexistence.
Kimsooja is an extremely intelligent and thoughtful and very critical artist today. She produces work that is extremely insightful, and she really enlightens us and calls for a deeper consciousness in the world.
Kimsooja, the person, is extraordinarily beautiful and very human. Her work belongs to a universal condition of humanity.
Art making for me is to understand myself and the world around me. Especially in this era of destruction and violence, I often feel powerless. But I still believe in art, culture, and spirit and truth in the world. That is the oxygen of our life that enable us to be here and now.
Although Kimsooja owns studios in New York, Paris, and Seoul, she is first and foremost a nomad. Traveling is key to her work.
For me, home is not the physical place, but the status of mind. I've been wandering around by myself, working, but whenever I go anywhere, I always feel home, and I find my body as my studio.
She really is a modern-day global nomad, and that's what really reflects in her practice. She's bridging different cultures and different ideas and opening up a lot of dialogue as well as understanding between different groups of people.
Nomadic living had always been a part of Kimsooja's life from the day she was born. Her father served in the military, a job that required the family to move from place to place, even once living near Korea's demilitarized zone, or the DMZ.
It was a very interesting way of living for us, and always, in a way, on the edge. And I think it was my basis of my awareness and appreciation in nature, and also curiosity in all the things around me. Also living a lot near DMZ area made me very aware of the sense of danger and the conflict between myself and the other.
From childhood, Kimsooja knew she wanted to be an artist. At 20, she took up painting at Honick University, but soon found herself experimenting with other mediums.
사각형 틀에 얽매여 있는 작업, 그리고 평평한 스크린에 무엇인가를 재현한다라는 작업이라는 문제를 별로 탐탁하게 여기지 않았던 것 같습니다. 그래서 이 평평한 일루전으로 한정된 작업 세계를 벗어나기 위해서 모색하던 중에 1983년에 어떤 일이 있었는데 어머니와 함께 이불보를 바느질하면서 바로 소잉의 가능성을 발견했던 겁니다.
I had this exhilarating moment when I was trying to push the needle point into the fabric. I was completely shocked, as if my head is hit by a certain thunder that comes from the universe. So that was the moment that this is it. This is the methodology I would experiment to investigate, to dig into the depth of the surface.
That experience of sewing is a really important visual technique for her. She's managed to actually rationalize the needle as a tool where the needle actually breaks through the two-dimensional tableau.
Kimsooja's works literally broke free from the canvas. From 1983, her art took on a more three-dimensional form, straddling the realms of painting and sculpture. But her artistic voice truly came to its own when she was invited to do a residency at New York's MoMA PS1. It was here that Kimsooja's most enduring motif, the bottari, made its first appearance.
The bottari in Korean actually means to wrap. So typically in the past, it's a type of traditional cloth material that is used to wrap different objects for when people are moving. And for Kimsooja, the bottari actually has a personal connection. And being in New York as a young artist, she needed to find her own place in the art world. She needed to find her own distinct language. And it's something that ties her back to home.
For her exhibition, Kimsooja collected old clothes from anonymous donors and wrapped them with used cloths to make her bottaris.
김수자의 보따리 작업은 또 다른 삶들을 그 안에 담는 거죠. 그러니까 그거를 이렇게 쌓는 행위. 근데 쌓는 행위는 그러한 다양한 삶을 모두 수용을 하고 그 다양한 삶들이 함께 공존한다라는 거를 상징하고 있는 것이기도 하죠.
Her exhibition won her international acclaim. But for Kimsooja, it was a personal breakthrough that would shape the future of her art.
MoMA PS1 residency was very important in my career because that was the moment I discovered bottari as another possibility to expand my practice. In a way, bottari making is also a three-dimensional way of sewing. Bottari has a certain kind of individual history and memory and presence of body in it. My work deals a lot on conditions of humanities and also violence in this world and also war or refugees. That is all questioning the condition of humanity and existence.
Coming up, Kimsooja moves into video. And we see her take the art of bottari making to architecture. Korean-born artist Kimsooja earned international renown for her unique exploration of the domestic act of sewing. Formerly a painter, her landmark installation at MoMA PS1 in 1992 placed her firmly in the field of sculpture and installation. But her work would take another turn just a year later when she began experimenting in video and discovered that the act of filming also paralleled the act of sewing and wrapping, which was so critical to her work.
I discovered my body as a symbolic needle that weaves the big fabric of nature. And also I discovered the frame of the video or video lens is another way of wrapping the nature or wrapping all activities. So that's the moment that I started video work, not because I was interested in image making or storytelling, but because of that fact of wrapping practice in an immaterial way.
Her experimentations in film eventually culminated in her iconic Needle Woman series. As the metaphorical needle, Kimsooja filmed herself in 14 busy cities in the world, from London to Lagos, Havana to Mexico City, Jerusalem to Rio de Janeiro, still and facing forward as the masses of people passed her by. Her very first one was at the Shibuya crossing in Tokyo.
It was not easy for me to resist these people against me, and I was very vulnerable standing still. But I was trying to focusing and finding a center in my mind, and I was able to create a certain space that I feel very comfortable and also very peaceful. So at the end of the performance, I was completely in peace and full of love, looking at the ocean of the humanity in front of my eyes. And it was such an extraordinary moment and memorable experience for me. That sense of affection and a sense of compassion towards the humanity was truly special for my entire career.
이불보에서 바늘로 그 천 조각들을 엮듯이 이 바늘 여인에서는 바늘이 된 김수자 스스로가 다양한 사람들의 삶, 다양한 지역, 다양한 도시 문화를 직접 엮는 거고 그 엮는 그 행위 자체가 기록이 된 게 제 바늘 여인 시리즈라고.
She is trying to represent elements of human condition, what is to be a human being in different parts of the world today. In a way, her work talks about universal values. It describes how in different places and through history we construct identities with objects and with gestures. And that condition also goes beyond form and material very often.
With video, Kimsooja moved beyond the realm of the physical, and soon enough, she did the same with her installations. Instead of objects, she would fill spaces with sounds of her breathing. A practice that eventually resulted in her extraordinary installation at Madrid's Crystal Palace in 2006.
Kimsooja's works are really about interlinking aesthetics and transcendent experiences. And that's why she has moved into mediums that is much more experiential.
She laid the floor with mirrors and wrapped the entire building in diffraction film, her first use of the material.
I considered the architectural form as another type of bottari. When I saw the space, I was very taken by the beauty of the building as a already perfect installation. And I thought this space doesn't need anything else to put in.
People go to art and they expecting to seeing something, experiencing something tangible. But Kimsooja actually invited the people something non-existent, something invisible. So it's actually a more exciting moment because we can experience what we couldn't expect it.
It was really an awe-inspiring experience to be engulfed by that space, but at the same time there was something extremely zen and peaceful. Her practice is really able to intervene and make an impact on the viewer in the way that it starts to make you look at yourself and understand your own self, and thereby really understanding humanity. And I believe that's how she ends up bridging different cultures and being able to impact a global audience.
After the break, Kimsooja returns to Seoul and gives us a tour of her latest exhibition. Kimsooja won critical acclaim worldwide for her unique craft that puts women's work front and centre. But her interest in female labour has very little to do with feminism, as some might think.
A lot of people do see her as maybe a feminist. There is something undeniably very feminine about her practice, but I wouldn't just pinpoint her as a woman artist, because sometimes those types of categories can be quite limiting.
Instead, she's simply presenting women's work as how she sees it, as an art form.
I wish to create a certain context in contemporary art that women's activity can be read as an art form. So I was very much focused on discovering all the women's activities, such as doing laundry, making bottaris, existing actions, existing objects, but rediscovering and recontextualizing of women's activities.
Her approach is most apparent in her long-running film series, Thread Roots. Kimsooja visited 5 countries, from Peru to India, and documented traditional women's work in each of them.
Thread Roots was conceived in 2002 when I first saw the lace-making performance on a street in Bruges. I was very inspired by the structural and performative movement of the lace-making that was immediately related to masculine way of labor, which is architecture. So from that moment, I was dreaming to film that depicts the performative and structural element of weaving and textile culture around the world.
In each of the films, Kimsooja juxtaposed these activities against built or natural structures, subtly capturing the parallels she sees between the handmade woven structures and the physical landscapes that contain these cultures.
This project is in a way showing the way I see, the way I gaze the world, and also I consider this as a visual poetry, but also poetic anthropology in a way.
You don't need to be a feminist to allow your work to speak about values or about characteristics that are part of the female identity.
너무 한 페미니즘으로 환원시키는 역할을 하지는 말아야 되겠다. 김수자 작업의 그 요소들은 훨씬 더 문화 인류학적인 차원에서 이야기되어지는 것이 작업의 풍요로움을 이제 알리는 그런 것이 될 것 같다라는 거.
Her holistic, humanistic approach is even reflected in her name. About a decade ago, she made it one word, dropping all the spaces in between and all the associations that came with them.
I discovered one word name, Kimsooja, is free from all gender identity, religious or political or marital status.
Kimsooja is now back in Seoul for a major exhibition at the Museum of Modern and Contemporary Art. Spanning the entire first floor of the museum, it's one of Kimsooja's largest exhibitions so far, with works from very early in her career to a few new ones made especially for the exhibition. It's an insightful look at her current interests and how her expression of female labour has developed since the early 80s. The centrepiece of the exhibition is her first interactive installation. A large 19-metre table where visitors are encouraged to mould balls from lumps of clay.
I consider this clay ball also as another bottari. When you touch the lump of clay in your hands, your hand and your palm functions as a bottari, also wrapping cloth.
In the room, Kimsooja surrounds visitors with a sound performance of her gurgling and clay balls rolling. Everything has been designed for a meditative, even spiritual experience.
In the beginning, you feel very much the cold clay in your hand. There is very tactile and physical. And once you caress them and embrace them into a sphere, focusing on that action, there's a moment that your mind is, in a way, absent. And this material almost becomes a void, and you don't feel the materiality anymore. I really wanted to have my audiences to feel the clay and to feel the materiality in their hands as a bottari making, but at the same time to feel the transcendent moment in their mind.
And those moments are forever frozen in the finished clay balls. Thus the title, Archive of Mind.
Art making for me is, in a way, to understand myself and the other, and myself and the world around me. Especially in this era of destruction and violence, I often feel powerless. But I still believe in art, culture, and spirit, and truth in the world. That is the oxygen of our life that enable us to be here and now.
Her art really opens up a new way of seeing the world in a totally unexpected perspective. She's an enlightened artist who goes beyond commenting or highlighting problems and negativity that's out there in the world. Instead, she focuses on a consciousness and calling out for a peaceful and shared collective understanding of what it means to be human and to breathe and share this world together as one humanity. Her art has a very strong, heartfelt gesture, and that, I believe, is what makes Kimsooja really an international artist and a global human being.
Living as an artist is like breathing for me. Every single thing I see, every single thing I experience as a human being is a question as an artist. It evolves into an artistic question, and it's an existential way of living for me. So if it were not art, I could have been also a religious person. But I choose my way as an artist and as a questioner, and the meaning that I gain from each project and awareness I gain from it as a human being is the most important thing for me.
Brilliant ideas, powered by Hyundai Motor.